So in my house, I'm sitting here by my computer screen, and all of a sudden these numbers started going so high. So I turned on my camera, and look at that. What is going on? Maybe some human experiments. So how do you explain this, you guys? Normally my levels, I've read my levels tons of times before, and it's always very low. I mean, below like a 0.0 something, and now I'm getting nailed. Okay, now they stopped for some reason. That's weird. This is well, anyhow, why are we getting pelted with these? What's going on, you guys? Any humans experiments going on, I wonder? Okay, guys, so I found the FCC Consumer Guide for Human Exposure to Radio Frequency Fields Guidelines for Cellular Antenna Sites. And it talks in here about how pretty much like it should be safe for people. You know, they're not gonna get nailed. But if you guys saw a couple of my videos ago, you've seen how high those readings were on that, by that little basketball court. So hang on, I'm going to scroll down. So this reads, consequently, normal ground level exposure is much less than the exposure that might be encountered if one were very close to the antenna and in its main transmitted beam. Measurements made near typical cellular and PCS cell sites have known that ground level power densities are well below the exposure limits recommended by RF microwave safety standards used by the FCC. And I do not know why I'm not focused here, but anyhow, okay, let's see. So so it talks about guidelines in 1996. They just love the three. Sorry, you guys, I was a little interrupted there. I had to stop. So, oh my, where is this? Why won't I focus? There we go. They love that number. Anyhow, back to work here. So, I'm just going to read this to you because for some reason my phone's weird. So in 1996, FCC adopted updated guidelines for evaluating human exposure to RF fields from fixed transmitting antennas such as those used for cellular and PCS cell sites. You guys remember how with the heart issues, they changed the what was it, the cholesterol levels or something like that? They changed it, so they kind of lowered what was acceptable or what was considered normal. So then everyone became under or above what the levels were considered healthy. So now all the doctors got to start prescribing tons of medication. It's kind of the same thing here. So when they readjust levels and stuff, they make it, now they're making the levels kind of higher, but yet our cells are the same. So them changing their numbers, whatever, I'll keep reading. The FCC's guidelines are identical to those recommended by the National Council on Radiation Protection and Measurements. So the National Council on Radiation Protection and Measurements, so that would be the NCRP, a nonprofit corporation chartered by Congress to develop information recommendations concerning radiation protection. The FCC's guidelines also resemble the 1992, we always have to have those 6 6s, it's so weird, and the 3 E's. And so the guidelines, 1992 guidelines recommended by the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, IEEE or 3. A nonprofit Technical and Professional Engineering Society and endorsed by the American National Standards Institute, ANSI. Whoa, ANSI. A nonprofit, privately funded membership organization that coordinates development of voluntary national standards in the United States. So everything's nonprofit, privately funded, voluntary. So in the case of cellular and PCS cell site transmitters, the FCC's RF exposure guidelines recommend a maximum permissible exposure level to the general public of approximately 580 microwatts per square centimeter. So, okay, so see the microwatts, that's M right here, this little number here, microwatts per square centimeter. So that's not a centimeter though, that looks like meters squared. So I don't know if that's the same. Microwatts per square centimeter. Okay, you guys, sorry, I might have lost my space because my internet just shut down, but so I'm gonna go back to, let's see, exposure level to the general public of approximately 580 microwatts per square centimeter. Now, my monitor and this is reading microwatts per square centimeter. So I can do the math later if someone wants to help out with that, but this limit is many times greater than radio frequency levels typically found near the base of cellular or PCS cell site towers in the vicinity of other low-powered cell site transmitters. Calculations corresponding to a worst-case situation, all transmitters operating simultaneously and continuously at the maximum licensed power, show that in order to be exposed to RF levels near the FCC's guidelines, an individual would essentially have to remain transmitting beam in the main transmitting beam and within a few feet of antenna for several minutes or longer. Thus, the possibility that a member of the general public could be exposed to RF levels in excess of the FCC guidelines is extremely remote. Okay, you guys, so this, oh my gosh, sorry about that. It's so loud here. Okay, so here, now this is really low. This is acceptable. This is microwatts per square meter. Whoops, see how high that's going right now? Okay, so microwatts per square meter. Look at the peak on the top left. And these guidelines say, so 580 microwatts per square centimeter. That's the worst case situation. So they're going by per square centimeter readings, where this monitor reads microwatts per square meter. So when I'm out in the field and I get this kind of reading, this is 14.318 microwatts per square meter. When I'm this far away from this AT&T cell tower, this was the message posted on this AT&T tower. So I know it's an AT&T tower, and they didn't make it very clear what the numbers were, but they go by radio frequency fields also. Now they don't say per square meter, they don't mention the value here, but it's either per milliwatts per square meter or per centimeter. So on August 2nd, when I went to this playground, my meter was off the charts because it only reads to 19 microwatts per square meter. So this was higher than 19 microwatts per square meter. So I think that's above the, was it 532 that the FCC was mentioning, 532 microwatts per centimeter, that those kids on August 2nd were exposed to at the cell towers there. I think that they're being doused with high levels of radiation. You see the cell tower there, and the kids are playing right under it, and it's over 19 microwatts per square meter. And there's those kids. So okay, so for instance, I'm here at my home, and this is reading 0.81, 0.649. You can see the, sorry about my fingers, but so those are readings right outside my home. And again, microwatts per square meter. And that is the cell tower. There's actually 4 towers there. There's a Verizon and a couple of the American towers. So I'm getting high readings from them, and that's pretty far away. Now, after that reading just a second ago out in my backyard, I actually put my cell phone down and walked away from it and read it again just to make sure it wasn't the cell phone that was doing the reading, which I do know the cell phones are incredibly high readings, but the cell phone was also on top of the meter, not pointing at that tower, and the readings weren't different. So I know I wasn't reading my cell phone. So this says, when cellular and PCS antennas are mounted on rooftops, RF emissions could exceed higher than desirable guideline levels on the rooftop itself, even though rooftop antennas usually operate at lower power levels than freestanding power antennas. Such levels might become an issue for maintenance or other personnel working on the rooftop. Exposures exceeding the guideline levels, however, are only likely to be encountered too very close to and directly in front of the antennas. So I wonder if that antenna, those antennas pointing at me from across the valley, is that what they would consider directly in front of, because I'm in front of it. So in such cases, precautions such as time limits can avoid exposure and excess of the guidelines. Individuals living or working within the buildings are not at risk. So how can people who live there 24/7, especially during lockdowns, not be at risk with these high cell towers? So anyhow, okay, so here if you want to go talk to the FCC. Oh, that's funny. All the 8s, all the 2s. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Federal Communications Commissions 1-888 call FCC. So it's 1-888-225-5322. And of course they're in Washington, D.C. And the FCC referred to the HPS.org about the society. HPS, Specialist in Radiation Protection. So just curious, you know me with my numbers, I'm just curious about HPS. So I'm just checking out this HPS in the gematria, because that's how they communicate with numbers and letters. So HPS in Jewish gematria, 158. English is 258, and HPS in simple is 43. So the first letter that comes up is goat. 158, 258, 43. Goat. Muhammad is the second one. The Kabbalah. When we go down to look at the simple, and 43 is mark. And plan. It's always part of the plan. So they talk, so here it is, HPS, so Specialist in Radiation Protection. And how I got to this place too, the FCC was talking about radiation experiments done in, let's see, from, I think it was 1996 to 200, what was the year? I think 1980. So cell phones, radio frequency, radiation, and power line fields. So Kenneth Foster should be able to help us then. So he received a PhD degree in physics from Indiana University, Bloomington. Oh, I've been there. In 1971, after serving with the U.S. Navy from 1971 to 1976. So we're currently Professor Emeritus of Bioengineering. So he should know about the health and safety of related radio frequency energy. So that's good. Maybe we should contact him. Okay, so I'm going to call this real quick and see what happens. This is the Health Physics Society.
Hello, you have reached Burke & Associates Incorporated. If you know your party's extension, please dial it at any time. To use the company directory and dial by name, please press 1. To reach a specific department, please press 2. Thank you.
Well, let's see. So
By using the keys on your touch-tone phone, please enter the first or last name of the party you wish to reach. Press star at any time to return to the main menu.
So I'm Foster.
Your party cannot be identified.
Oh, wow.
Please try again.
Okay.
Your party cannot be identified.
Oh my gosh.
Please try again.
That's
Please
so...
stay on the line while your call is transferred to the operator.
So we've been ringing.
You have reached Society Headquarters. We are unable to take your call at the moment. Please leave your name, phone number, and a brief message, as well as the society you're calling about. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.
Okay, so I left a number, but I mean, I didn't leave a number. Actually, I just left a message. I'll try to call back. But it does seem to me that everything's shut down, so people aren't really able to get any kind of answers to any of their questions. So where does that leave us, you guys? So here's the NCRP, National Council on Radiation Protection and Measurements. And in this paper, it does talk about the testing that they have been doing, not just in China, but they're talking about over 500 weapons tests with a total yield of about 440, I think that's metric tons, and a total fission yield of about 190 metric tons were conducted in the atmosphere by the United States, Soviet Union, United Kingdom, France, and China between 1945 and 1980. So they're doing all these tests. They did it a long time ago in 1980. What do they think is going to happen? So on this page at the ncrponline.org in the publications, this talks about laboratory analysis, environmental and biological measurements. They're talking about the monitoring of the radio fallout and the nuclide concentrations. So they state, concerns over health impact of fallout ushered in large programs in the United States, the United Kingdom, and other countries to measure the radionucleotides of dosimetric interest. Just because they have an interest, they want to study things. So Programs were set up to determine dietary intake and human and animal tissue distribution of 90 SR, I don't know, I guess that's cesium or, and 137 CS. Some of the first measurements of natural background dietary radium and body potassium were a response to identifying analog elements. The impact of the environmental measurements made for fallout went far beyond any dosimetric consequences. So if I'm saying that right, dosimetric, a device used to measure an absorbed dose of ionizing radiation. Now I know that non-ionizing and ionizing are different things, but radiation is radiation in a sense that your body, with the frequencies, it's not used to dealing with these it's not a healthy environment. But okay, so it says, so the impact of environmental measurements made for fallout went far beyond any dosimetric consequences. For example, present-day information on bone tissue turnover rates are derived mainly from radiochemical analysis of 90, I don't know if it's cesium or what that is, measurements in human bone, and historical fallout deposition measurements were used in the NCI study to calculate the United States county-by-county thyroid dose from 1311. I think that's a cesium or some kind of radiation. This spin-off from enormous expenditure in effort to make these measurements and to determine the health consequences of global fallout laid a rich, basic, and applied scientific foundation in many disciplines. Wow. Okay, and here's another one. So the reason why I'm showing you guys some of these things is because they tested a long time ago, and they're still testing. Now they're using the cell towers. And I'm just showing you these studies and stuff that they've been doing because just because of their curiosity, they think that they can douse us with all their, oh God, it's just so disgusting. So anyhow, this says atmospheric science. Meteorological benefits from atmospheric nuclear tests. So from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the injection of detectable particles and gases into the atmosphere by nuclear tests permitted the meteorologists to better understand air trajectories, dispersion, and transfer of these substances to the ground. Well, I'm glad their curiosity got, quenched, but measurements on and near the ground by aircraft and balloon while obtained for operational and safety needs were used by many scientists to better understand and verify atmospheric processes. So the injection of major air pollutants by nuclear tests and associated substantial funding also invigorated the field of atmospheric chemistry. The industrial expansion after World War II put a variety of pollutants into the air. The advances of meteorology and air chemistry derived from the study of atmospheric nuclear test debris were helpful in meeting new demands and to understand the fate of the pollution. What about the fate of the people? Oh my God. Yeah, that pollution ends up in the people. So this says, since the atmospheric tests were conducted for operational need rather than as a tool for the scientist, not all their characteristics were ideal. So since the atmospheric tests were conducted for operational needs, what does that tell us, you guys? The choice of timing and location of the test, uncertainties in their strength and in the distribution of radioactivity with height, plus the incomplete availability of all measurements limited their benefits for atmospheric science. So they don't even know what they're doing. They don't even know what the fallout basically is going to be on any of this, but just to quench their curiosity, they're going to just continue with their tests. So again, it's all about their curiosity, it seems like. The contributions to worldwide fallout can be inferred from individual tests, from tests at specific sites or by specific countries. So, and again, this is nuclear stuff, but what they're doing now with the frequencies, with the cell towers, that's a whole nother group of testing. So, Colorado State University food chain pathways. They talk about the presentation will provide selected illustrations on how measurements of global fallout from atmospheric nuclear testing have contributed to basic knowledge of biochemical cycles of many elements and enhanced understanding of food chain pathways. The necessity to monitor the radionuclide content of environmental media and foodstuffs during and after nuclear testing era led to clever sampling designs and experiments, which in many cases have led to new and sometimes rather unexpected insights about basic ecological, physiological, and chemical processes which control the movements of materials and energy in the biosphere. So examples of knowledge gained through fallout-related studies include such topics as plant nutrition, feeding habits and intake rates of animals, trophic relationships, bioengineerics, migration patterns, agricultural processes, physiological rate parameters in animals and humans, and the ability to construct credible transport models for use in dose risk assessments. So it will be concluded that despite the regrettable aspects of historical atmospheric nuclear testing programs, so despite the regrettable aspects, we're still going to be testing. A wide variety of useful contributions to our understanding of biochemical, ecological, agricultural, and physiological processes resulted from studies on the radioactive fallout generated by them. So, you know, even though it really kind of screwed people in life and things up, that's okay because we got our curiosity satisfied. So, all in the name of science. You know, just because you can doesn't mean you should. So they talk about impact on society, human exposure and effects estimate of doses and global fallout, National Cancer Institute. The testing of nuclear weapons in atmosphere was the most significant source of exposure of the world population to man-made environmental sources of radiation. The practice continued from 1945 to 1980, and I can tell you guys, that's not the end of their practice and their testing. Nuclear weapons tests were conducted at various locations on and above the Earth's surface, including mountings on towers, placements on barges and ocean surface, suspensions from balloons, drops from airplanes, and high-altitude launchings by rockets. So look up there when it says include